I never thought I'd end up in a situation like this. Jessica and I had been married for about 5 years, and honestly, for most of that time, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. Sure, there were little fights like every couple, but nothing that made me question whether she was the one. She was beautiful, sharp-tongued, sometimes bitchy, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Lately, though, things started feeling off. She'd be more distant, quick to snap at me over nothing, and her phone seemed glued to her hand. Then there were the little things, missing items, weird excuses about staying late at work, unexplained texts. Nothing concrete, just enough to make me suspicious without having proof. Still, I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was paranoid, maybe overthinking because of my own stress with work and some personal setbacks. One day, I noticed her behavior when she came back from one of her late nights. She was unusually defensive when I asked about where she'd been, and she snapped at me, saying I was overreacting. That really set something off inside me. I decided to take a closer look just to ease my mind. The thing is, Jessica is the type to lie convincingly. She's a master at distracting me, changing the subject, or just outright denying things, but I figured I could find some sort of proof if I looked hard enough. So I started paying closer attention, especially to her phone, her schedule, and even her car. I didn't want to be a paranoid psycho, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. I'd been with her long enough to know when she was lying, and lately she'd been lying a lot. Then I remembered her ankle monitor. She's on parole for some past mistake, and how that thing tracks her everywhere. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been checking the GPS logs out of curiosity. I wanted to see if her stories about her work trips matched her location data. It was late one night when I finally pulled up the GPS history on her ankle monitor app. I was expecting to see some standard routes, maybe some runs to the grocery store or her sister's house. But what I saw made my stomach drop. Her car had been at a certain apartment complex late at night more than once. I could see her car parked there, the GPS pin staying put for hours. The apartment was a half-hour drive from our place, and I'd never seen her go there. It was a different part of town, a place I knew was mostly filled with young couples and some sketchier types. I never would have guessed Jessica was meeting someone there, especially not her parole officer, Mike. I felt my heart pounding. I knew Mike, a tall, handsome guy with a reputation for being smooth, had been friendly with Jessica, but I always thought it was just casual. They exchanged some flirty comments now and then, but I brushed it off as harmless. Now, seeing her car parked there for hours at a time, I realized it was more than innocent. It wasn't just a quick meetup or a text exchange. Something was definitely going on. The worst part, I saw her car there 2 nights in a row. And the dates lined up perfectly, those nights when she'd claimed she was working late. I felt sick, angry, betrayed. I kept staring at the maps, trying to piece it all together, and it hit me hard. She'd been lying to me this whole time, sneaking around behind my back. I couldn't believe it. My wife Jessica, who always acted like she was so above everything, was out having sex with my parole officer, Mike, the guy who was supposed to be helping her stay clean, not screwing her in some filthy apartment. I sat there in silence for a while, eyes glued to the screen, feeling like my world was collapsing. The trust I had in her in that marriage just shattered into a million pieces. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face, pretend everything was fine, and then sneak around with him? I thought about confronting her immediately, but I knew I needed to think carefully about what I was going to say. This wasn't just a petty lie. It was a full-blown affair, and it involved betrayal on multiple levels: trust, loyalty, even her own integrity. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept going over everything in my mind, feeling a mix of rage, sadness, and disappointment. I thought about the woman I married, the Jessica I thought loved me, and how it had all been a lie. This was a wake-up call I never saw coming, and now I had to decide what to do about it. The next day I couldn't focus at work. My mind kept drifting back to those GPS logs, to her car parked at that apartment. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to what was happening right under my nose. I had trusted her completely. We had our arguments, sure, but I never thought she'd betray me like this. especially with someone I'd considered a kind of authority figure, a guy I once thought was there to help her get her life back on track. Now, I saw him as the snake he really was. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just blow up and accuse her without solid evidence. She'd deny everything, lie her way out of it, and I'd look like an idiot. So I decided to wait, gather my thoughts, and prepare what I wanted to say. I wanted her to confess, to own up, and I wanted to catch her off guard. That night I waited until she came home. She was late again, of course, and when she finally stepped through the door, she tossed her purse down like she owned the place. Her eyes flicked over to me, and I saw that familiar shell-shocked look, hiding something. She gave me that fake smile, the one she always used when she was hiding something. "Hey, babe," she said, voice still kind of bitchy, as if she was annoyed I was even there. "What's up?" I looked at her, my jaw tight. "Where exactly have you been the last few nights, Jessica? We both know you've been lying." Eyes widened just a little, then she rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "What are you talking about? I told you I was working late. I have to check in with my parole officer, right?" "Yeah, I know that," I said, voice steady but angry. "I checked your GPS logs, and I saw your car parked at Mike's apartment. Tell me, Jessica, what's really going on?" She scoffed, lowering her voice to a sarcastic tone. "You're crazy. You think I'd do something stupid like that? Mike's just a damn parole officer. We're just friends, okay? You're overreacting." I shook my head. "No, Jessica, you're lying. I've seen the proof. Your car was there multiple nights long after your supposed work hours, and I know what that means. You're having sex with him, aren't you?" Her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, please, just because my car happens to be near his apartment doesn't mean I'm screwed." "Stop lying," I cut her off. "I know everything now. I saw the logs. I know about the affair. How long has this been going on? Since when have you been sneaking around behind my back?" She paused, her eyes narrowing. "You're crazy. You're just jealous. Mike, just helping me, okay? We're not doing anything inappropriate. You're just imagining things." I couldn't believe her. The way she lied so easily, so casually, trying to spin it like I was the one at fault. I felt the blood pounding in my ears. I'd always believed she was honest, that she was loyal. Turns out she was just a bitch who was willing to cheat on me with her parole officer, all behind my back. I stared at her, feeling a mix of fury and heartbreak. The betrayal cut deep, deeper than I'd ever felt before. I suddenly saw everything in a new light: her dismissiveness, her snide comments, the way she'd shut me out. She'd been manipulating me all along, hiding her affair, lying about her whereabouts, pretending to be the victim. I wanted to scream, to tear her apart with words, but I kept my cool. I knew I needed to think clearly. Right now, she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. I had to be smarter. I told her I needed some space, that we'd talk when I was ready. She rolled her eyes, but I saw a flicker of panic. After she went to bed, I sat alone in the dark. My mind was racing. The anger was building, but so was the pain. How could she do this to me? How could she betray everything we'd built? All those promises, all that love, was it just a lie? I felt completely shattered inside. The woman I thought I knew had been cheating on me with a man who was supposed to be helping her turn her life around. That night I started planning my next move. I didn't want her to get away with it. She thought she was so clever, so untouchable, but I was going to make sure she paid. I wasn't just going to walk away from this. No, I'd find a way to expose her, to make her regret ever messing with me. It was time for her to see that she'd crossed a line she couldn't come back from. And trust me, she was going to regret ever trusting Mike, and she was going to regret betraying me. The days that followed were a blur of planning and emotional turmoil. I couldn't focus at work, kept replaying everything I'd learned, trying to figure out how I'd confront her in a way that hit her where it hurt. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt in a way I'd never been before. Jessica always played the victim, acting like she was the one wronged, but now I saw her for what she really was: a liar and a cheat. I decided I needed more concrete proof, something undeniable. I started to dig deeper, using her phone when she wasn't looking, checking her messages, her calls. I wanted to know if she was still sneaking around, if she'd slipped up in some way. That's when I found it. A secret text exchange with Mike, the kind of messages that made my stomach turn. Flirty, suggestive, borderline explicit. She'd been sending him pictures, little snippets about how she couldn't wait to see him again. I felt my blood boil. How much more obvious could she be? She was openly cheating on me, and she didn't even care to hide it anymore. I printed out those messages, saved every piece of proof I could find, knowing I'd need it if I wanted to confront her properly. It was one thing to know she was sleeping with Mike. It was another to have the proof in black and white. That night, I finally decided I'd had enough. I waited until she was in the shower, then I set up my plan. I was going to confront her with everything, show her those messages, tell her I knew her lies, and see how she reacted. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive fool anymore, that I'd uncovered her little game. When she came out of the bathroom, I was sitting on the couch with her phone, the printed texts on the coffee table. She looked suspicious, her eyes narrowing. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice sharp. I didn't sugarcoat it. I just looked straight at her and said, "Jessica, I know about you and Mike. I saw the text. I know you've been sleeping with him. How long has this been going on?" Her face went pale for a moment, then she scoffed. "You're crazy. Those messages could be fake or taken out of context. You're just jealous because I'm finally getting some attention. Maybe if you weren't so fucking boring, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." I shook my head, feeling the rage boiling inside me. "Don't lie to me. I have the proof. I have the GPS logs and your messages. You've been lying to my face for months." Her eyes started to water and she looked angry now, defensive. "You don't understand. Mike's just helping me. It's not what you think. I swear I never wanted to hurt you. I needed someone who actually cared, someone who listened to me." That was a lie, and I knew it. She was just trying to spin her story to make herself look innocent. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I felt broken, betrayed, but somewhere deep inside I knew this was the moment I had to decide what to do next. I stood up, voice cold and steady. "You've been screwing him behind my back, Jessica, and I want you to know that I'm done. I'm not going to be your fool anymore. I don't want to hear your lies. Pack your shit, you're out of here." She looked at me, eyes wide with a mix of shock and fury, then she snapped back with a hateful glare. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? You're just a damn fool if you believe I'm going anywhere. This isn't over." But I had made up my mind. I was finished pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. I was tired of her lying, tired of feeling like I was losing my mind. That night I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling numb but also oddly relieved. The truth was out. There was no more pretending. That's when I realized how deep the betrayal went. She'd been lying to me for months, sneaking around with Mike, betraying everything we'd built. I knew I had to do something more, something permanent. I wasn't just going to kick her out and pretend it never happened. No, I wanted her to see the consequences of her actions. I wanted her to regret ever crossing me. It was a long road ahead, but I was finally clear-headed enough to face it. The trust was shattered, and I knew I'd never see her the same way again. The woman I married, my Jessica, had turned into a stranger, someone who was capable of lying, cheating, and sneaking around with my parole officer. That realization hit me hard. I felt like I'd lost not just my wife but a part of myself too, and I was left wondering how I'd ever recover from this. The days after that confrontation were some of the most intense of my life. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, half aware of everything, yet hyper-aware of the betrayal looming over me. I told her to pack her shit, but she wasn't moving out that easily. Jessica was stubborn, bitchy when she didn't get her way, and now she was trying to spin her lies even harder. She kept insisting that she wasn't cheating, that I was mistaken, that Mike was just helping her with her parole, and that there was nothing more to it. Her tone was sneering, her words dripping with venom. "You think I've been screwing him? Please. He's just a damn parole officer, and I'd never do something so stupid. You're just jealous because I've got attention and you don't." She rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, acting like I was the crazy one, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew the truth. I saw her car parked at that apartment, I saw the texts, and I knew she was lying to my face. I decided I needed to take control of the situation. I contacted her parole officer, Mike. I wanted to hear his side, see if I could get some clarity. My plan was to confront him directly, ask him what the hell he thought he was doing. I got his voicemail, left a message asking him to call me back. I wasn't going to let this go without some answers. I also knew I needed to figure out what legal options I had. Was I going to kick her out? Could I call the cops? Or was this just a messy breakup I had to navigate? Meanwhile, Jessica was still putting on her act of innocence, trying to convince me that I was overreacting. She threw tantrums, called me paranoid, said I was crazy for even suspecting her. It made me furious. How could she lie so effortlessly while I had proof sitting right in front of me? It was like she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt my own sanity. She told me I was being unreasonable, that I should trust her, that she loved me. But I couldn't stomach her bullshit anymore. I started packing some of my own things while she was at work, just in case she refused to leave, just in case I needed to make a quick escape. I knew I couldn't stay under the same roof with her anymore. Not after what I found out. I also reached out to a lawyer, just to understand my rights. It was clear that this wasn't just some small betrayal. It was a full-blown affair with someone I once trusted. I felt like my whole world was crumbling, and I was trying to hold everything together while she sat there, acting like I was the crazy one. It was late in the evening when I finally got a call back from Mike. The voice on the other end was calm but guarded. I asked him straightforwardly if he'd been sleeping with Jessica. There was a pause, then he finally admitted it. Yes, they'd been seeing each other for a few months, and yes, she'd been to his apartment more than I'd like to admit. Hearing that just confirmed everything I'd suspected. I felt a cold rage flood through me. I told him I wasn't interested in playing his games anymore, that my wife had been unfaithful and I was done with the lies. I told him I was going to put an end to it, one way or another. I hung up feeling a strange sense of clarity. She had betrayed me and I was not going to let her get away with it. I was tired of being the fool, the one who accepted everything without question. That night, I sat alone in the dark, thinking about everything. I felt betrayed, humiliated, but also strangely liberated. I knew what I had to do. Now I couldn't stay married to someone who lied so easily, who cheated behind my back. I needed to cut her out of my life for good this time. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I had to get out of this toxic mess and start rebuilding my life. The realization hit me hard. I deserved better. Jessica was no longer the woman I thought I knew. She'd proven that. Her lies, her betrayal, her manipulations, they all showed me that she didn't care about us, about our marriage, about me. And honestly, I was exhausted from fighting for something that was already broken beyond repair. I knew I had to make a choice, stay and try to fix things, or walk away for good. But deep down, I already knew what the right decision was. It was just a matter of facing the pain and doing it. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, my heart heavy. Every part of me was exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew what I had to do. Jessica wasn't going to change, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. She'd betrayed me in the worst way, and I had to face the consequences. I started by packing the rest of my things, quietly, making sure she wouldn't suspect. I didn't want a scene. I just needed to get out before she could spin her lies again or manipulate me into staying. I threw my clothes into duffel bags, grabbed some important documents, and left my phone behind, just temporarily to avoid any last-minute contact that might drown me in her excuses. I knew that once I was gone, she'd try to call, try to guilt me into staying, but I couldn't fall for that. As I was about to leave, she suddenly appeared in the doorway, her face twisted with anger. "Where do you think you're going?" she snapped, voice sharp. "You're not leaving me, not after everything." I looked her straight in the eyes. "Jessica, I've had enough. I know about you and Mike, and I can't do this anymore. I'm done pretending you're not a liar and a cheater. You've been screwing him behind my back, and I'm not going to be your fool. I want out." She screamed at me then, furious, calling me names, accusing me of ruining her life and trying to guilt-trip me into staying. She played the victim, as usual, crying about how I was ruining everything, how she loved me, how she'd never do anything to hurt me. But I wasn't buying it. I saw through her lies now. It was all just a game to her, a way to keep control, to manipulate her way back into my good graces. "I don't want to hear it, Jessica," I said, voice cold but steady. "I'm leaving, and I want you out of my life. Don't call me, don't try to make this about guilt. I deserve better than someone who cheats and lies to me." With that, I grabbed my bags and walked out the door. I didn't look back. I felt like I was finally free, finally taking control of my life again. The house felt cold, empty, but I knew that was better than feeling trapped in a lie. For the first time in a long while, I took a deep breath and started planning my next steps. I reached out to some friends, told them what was happening. I blocked Jessica's number. I knew it was going to be a rough road ahead, but I also knew I was better off without her. Over the next few days, I began to rebuild myself. I got a new place, started focusing on my job, and tried to piece my life back together. Jessica tried to call a few times, leaving angry voicemails, but I ignored them. I didn't want her to have any power over me anymore. The betrayal had cut so deep, but I refused to let it define me. In the end, I realized that sometimes the worst betrayals come from the people you trust the most. Jessica had played me for a fool, thinking she could lie and cheat her way out of what she'd done. But I finally saw her for what she was, a manipulative, selfish woman who didn't care about anyone but herself. It hurt like hell, but I also felt a strange relief. I was finally free from the lie. I learned a lot through all this. That trust is fragile, and sometimes you don't realize how much someone can hurt you until it's too late. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I can survive betrayal and come out the other side. And honestly, I hope anyone else going through something similar finds the courage to walk away, because staying only prolongs the pain. No one deserves to be manipulated or lied to, especially not by someone they loved. That's what I've taken from this, and I'll carry it with me forever. It's been a few weeks now since I left her, and honestly, life feels different, better, even if I'd never admit it outright. I still think about that mess sometimes, the betrayal that tore my world apart, but I also realize how much strength I found in finally walking away. Jessica's lies, her manipulations, they are her problem now. I don't carry her guilt anymore. I've started focusing on myself, rebuilding what I lost, piece by piece, and learning what I want from life without the chaos she brought into it. I've had time to reflect on the whole nightmare, and here's what I've come to understand. Trust can be broken in an instant, and once it's gone, it's nearly impossible to get back. But what I've also learned is that I'm capable of surviving even the worst betrayals. That realization has made me stronger. I've become more cautious, more aware of the people I let into my life. I refuse to be fooled again by someone who doesn't value honesty and loyalty. One of the hardest parts was confronting the fact that I loved her, that I had built my life around the hope that she was genuinely committed. But love isn't enough when someone is willing to lie and cheat on you. It's a lesson that's burned into my mind. If the foundation isn't solid, no amount of love can hold a relationship together. I'm not the victim here, I'm the survivor, and that's what I cling to now. I've started going out more, reconnecting with friends, and even dating again. It's slow, but it feels good to remember that life doesn't end with betrayal. I want to move forward, learn from what happened, and make sure I never let someone manipulate me like that again. Every day is a little easier, and I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And to anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, listen, I know it hurts. It feels like your world is falling apart and you're drowning in the betrayal. But trust me, you're stronger than you think. Walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who truly cares about you, not lies or excuses. Don't settle for less, no matter how much love you think you have invested. Sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out what's toxic and move on. This whole ordeal has taught me that betrayal reveals true character. Jessica's actions showed me who she really was: selfish, manipulative, a liar. But it also taught me that I am resilient. I will recover. I will find happiness again, even if it's in a different form. The pain will fade with time, and I'll come out of this stronger, wiser, more cautious. So I leave you with this: never ignore the signs and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Trust is precious, and when it's broken, it's painful. But life goes on, and so will you. Take care of yourself. Love yourself enough to walk away from betrayal, and remember, your happiness is worth more than any lie.